Welcome everyone to a Few Good Mentor sponsored podcast called the MaleBox. Just want to thank everybody, especially our producers who are Asha and Carnisha for all the help. We have a guest panel here. And before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about A Few Good Mentors and what we're trying to do here with the podcast. A Few Good Mentors Incorporated is a mentoring organization for young men ages 8 to 21, currently based in Virginia. We have a chapter in Northern Virginia. We have a chapter in the Hampton Roads area. And mentoring has always been near and dear to my heart. The reason that I started this organization really was years of mentoring with big brother, big sisters, and a need for us to come together as men, reach back out to the younger generation and help them along. I think there's definitely a need for that. Always has been a need for it, but it especially is a need today, as everybody has witnessed in the news. For me personally, my greatest mentor was my father. My mother also was a great mentor, but my father really kept me from getting into trouble, doing crazy things and things like that. My next door neighbor, Chucky, my brother Mercer Morgan. I'm the youngest of five, and so I've had a lot of mentors in my life. All the coaches, teachers, a lot of people, even professionally, a lot of mentors when I started working for the federal government. So with a few good mentors, I really wanted us to come together as men through my faith in Christ, of reaching back out and helping other young men. And I think with a few good mentors and this podcast, we can reach even more people, than we currently are. We want to spread it out as far and as wide as we can. Have we have training for all of our mentors. We make sure that there's background checks done. And so A Few Good Mentors is the main sponsor for this podcast, and the information is being scrolled below, but you can also reach us at afgmmentoring.net on the web, or you can email us. So that's a little bit about the organization. Now, the podcast itself is just a kind of an offshoot of the mentoring organization. Really, we want to come together, talk about issues affecting men today. What you're going to see in the next few weeks, you're going to see interviews, some one-on-one interviews, some group discussions, some current event things that are going on today. But we really want to get men talking about things that's on their mind. And so each month or so, we'll have different themes that we stick to. Going into October, we really want to focus in on health, both mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and we really want to talk about these things, anything that's bothering us. And if you have any topics you want to see in the coming weeks, definitely reach out to us and let us know how we're doing, questions you might have, things that you want to see us discuss. I think it's going to be a great discussion that we have. I think today, especially with a phenomenal panel, all mentors and a few good mentors. And so I think we're ready to really kick it off. And so I'm excited to have the panel. I'm excited for us to get started with this podcast. I know the guys are all excited to talk about some of the issues that are coming up in our community and with us in general. So I think we should get started. And I want to start out by really introducing another young man that has really helped get the podcast going as well. And we're going to go down the line and introduce the entire panel. We'll start with Carrick. Carrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, fun fact about yourself, what chapter do you represent with a few good mentors, and then we'll go on down the line.
All right, thanks, Mike. My name is Carrick Williams. Originally, I'm from Philadelphia. Um, I'm in the Navy. I've been in the Navy for 11 and a half years now. And I've been in the Hampton Roads area since 2014. So it wasn't till about earlier this year, I'd say like January, where I said, you know what, I need to do more. I need to contribute more. Yes, I'm contributing to the Navy, but what difference am I making to the community? And so it just so happened when I started getting closer to Christ, he told me, hey, Carrick, you need to do more. So I started by volunteering at a local food bank and delivering meals, or not a food bank, at a church, and they were delivering meals. And just so happened one day when I was delivering meals, a lady approached me with a flyer about a few good mentors and said, hey, they're doing a shoe drive. Why don't you check them out? So I went to the back and I met Marty, who's in charge of the Hampton Roads chapter, and he hooked me up with a few good mentors. I have a mentee now. His name is Aiden. He's 10, and we've been just having a good time ever since. I love it. I love giving back, and I felt like this is my way of giving back. It's not just to the church, but also to the community. And now here we are with the podcast. So this is our first one, and I'm excited to just see where it goes. Something interesting about myself: I'm an Eagles fan, and I like to hike. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, thanks, Mike.
All right, Carrick. And besides being the Eagles fan, which we'll let that slide, but and also I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so I love all Cleveland sports as well. But we're gonna move on to and you'll see that our panel is we have older, younger. We're going to have a cross section of men in the next coming weeks talking to you. But let's move to our Hampton Roads chapter director. Marty is going to introduce himself.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Marty Smith. Down here in Hampton Roads. Been in the Hampton Roads area for probably over 20 years. Originally from Washington, D.C., and got to Hampton Roads by way of South Carolina. I had to go down there and pick up my wife, and then head on up here. Mentoring has always been close to my heart. I was always mentored my nephews when they were smaller, take them out, play ball, kind of did things, told them things, and always kind of looked up to them because they didn't have others. They were sort of single children among themselves, and I always had a heart for that. Really didn't have like a one mentor that I can go to, but it was basically a group of people that always kind of steered me. And most of those folks were coming out of the church for the most part, and they showed a concern and a heart to want me to do better. So those are the things that I carried on as I moved forward into mentoring. The mentoring probably for what happened was probably about a year back because of the pandemic. The church has stopped mentoring in the communities, and that's been over a year or something. So I was really looking for a way to get back in the community. So technically, I was looking at starting my own mentoring group, and I happened to go on the Obama's MBK site, my brother's keeper site. Looked in Virginia area, and they suggested that we'll see who's already doing something. I've seen a couple of mentoring organizations, but the one that stuck to me was AFGM because the spiritual and the spiritual back the men that I wanted to be a part of. That's where my heart was, the foundational biblical foundations. So I called up Mike and we talked and we kind of talked a couple of times, came to agreement. And basically from there launched the AFG down here in Hampton. Fun fact about me is probably I am a Minnesota Vikings fan. And a lot of people say, coming from Washington, D.C., how do you become to be a Minnesota Viking fan? It's a long story, but it goes way back. But that'll probably be the fun fact for me.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Marty. And Marty really has a passion for mentoring and really cares about not just the mentors, but the mentees down in the Hampton Roads area. So we thank you, Marty. We can't do it without you. Next up, we want to introduce a board member, author, my good friend, Eric Folks. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric?
Thank you, Michael. Great evening, everyone. My name is Eric Folks. I am born and raised here in Northern Virginia. I currently reside in Northern Virginia. I'm a part of the Northern Virginia chapter of A Few Good Mentors. I'm a father of four, so I know the importance of the village and the importance of, mentoring and everyone helping everyone, because it truly takes a village. Fun fact about myself is, or interesting fact, I don't know how fun this is, but I used to be a cable man about 20 years ago. And so a lot of people can't see me climbing through closets and telephone poles and all that good stuff. So that's a fun fact, interesting fact. Some people find that funny, but again, mentoring for me is very, very important. I was blessed by many people as I grew up, whether it was neighbors, aunts, uncles, brothers, just people who have blessed me and poured into me and kind of helped me stay on the straight and narrow. And for those who have read my book, we know it's only by His grace that they were able to help me, and that I'm blessed to be a board member, an author, an influence in a positive way for Jesus Christ. And that's me.
Okay, Eric, thank you so much. Yeah, and also anything about cars, Eric is phenomenal, knows a lot about a variety of different vehicles. Yeah, a good man right there. Let's go back up to the Northern Virginia chapter and let's hear from another good friend of mine, Broderick Franklin. Let's introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Broderick Franklin. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm living here in the Northern Virginia area. Been here for about 10 years now. What got me interested in mentoring? First, I found out about it from another fellow mentor, and then right as COVID was hitting, in the wake of the George Floyd unlawful murder, I said, you know what, this seems like a more realistic, tangible thing that I can do. I know around that time last June, everybody was protesting, and if you weren't protesting, people made it seem as though you were inhumane. But for me, this felt like a more realistic investment. It's something that's necessary, like a lot of the other brothers stated. I grew up where the entire neighborhood was a village. Your neighbors, the deacons in the church, all help hold you accountable. So that was something that when I found out about this organization, I said, you know what, count me in. I'm all in. In terms of a fun fact, kind of like brother Eric stated, in another life, and as I mentioned, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, so I'm a city boy. But in another life, I was sworn in as a federal game warden and wildland firefighter. So, and I did it on the opposite end of the country. So from Fort Worth, my National Wildlife Refuge was located up in New Hampshire. So you take me from about 100 degrees to about, 0 in the wintertime. So that was quite interesting for me. Thank you.
All right. I never knew that about you, Broderick. Never knew that. That's interesting. And last but definitely not least is Ricky from the Hampton Roads chapter.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, y'all. Evening, right? Evening. My name is Ricky Merrill. I'm down here in the Hampton Roads chapter. I'm active duty Navy, like Carrick. I'm married with two beautiful girls, and the reason, that what drew me to A Few Good Mentors is I was looking like Marty and a few others. I was looking online to see how I can make an impact. A lot of people in my life have kept me, like everyone else on the panel, kept me on the straight and narrow. when I got off track, I had my father, my football coaches, basketball coaches to steer me back. And even as I joined the Navy, I kind of gravitated towards some men with the same faith as me, and just saw something in me to keep me on the straight and narrow in the Navy. Whether it was if I was dealing with something for marriage wise, or as a father, a new father trying to adapt. And so growing as I got older, my nephews, they were having questions and they were trying to figure out life and a lot of things that I had already went through. So once I became in that role of helping them navigate through life, I was like, you know what? This is more rewarding being on this end of it. And so let me get into it. Let me look a bit deeper. So when I got online, uh, I immediately sifted through all the different mentor groups, and I got connected with Marty and Mike, and ever since then it's been downhill. I have a mentor, a mentee. He's 10 as well, and I try to see him as much as possible, talk to him on the phone, and it's more so it does more for me than I think he even realized. And so now it's just, hey, spreading the gospel, making sure that we touch as many lives as possible. A fun fact about me, um, I joined the Navy and couldn't swim. That's an interesting fact, and I suffered for a while in boot camp. So to say that I survived boot camp is an understatement. And I'm from Georgia, so I'm a Falcons fan.
Okay. Wow. Join the Navy and can't swim, but now you can swim, right?
Now I can swim. Now I
Right.
can swim.
That's important. That's important. So this is a great panel, and so tonight we just have a few questions that we want to throw out there. I know why you joined AFGM as a mentor, like you all said. Could be for faith, could be for reaching back out to the community and doing something different. It for some of you all, you really wanted to make an impact in other people's life. One thing I've heard around in my discussions with people, and I'm gonna throw this out to Marty, is what's the most common myth about being a man that you've heard? Because really, AFGM and mentoring in general, when it comes to manhood and mentoring to a younger person, there's a lot of myths out there about men in general. And I know we could take all day to talk about this, but for you, Marty, let's start with you, Marty. Like, what's a common myth about being a man that you've heard?
Well, I think the common myth that I think that I would probably would say was that as a man you're supposed to have things together. You're supposed to have it all tight, and there's no loose ends. You front like you got it all together. You want to feel like you got everything all together, and when you're around people, you want to feel like you got it all together. So I think that's a myth, because men do have issues that they don't express, because they basically behind the image that I got to have it all together, or this something, I'm not taking care of my business, and that's one of the things that I've seen with some of the younger men as a mentor, is the fact that sometimes they hold a very hard and hardened front to not let people get through to some of the things that going through, and that's the way that kind of feel like I got to do that, pretty much show that I'm strong and I'm a man. So that's probably, to me, one of the biggest myths is the fact that, you know, being a man, you're supposed to have everything together, and if you don't, you know, something wrong with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have heard that myself. And, you know, Carrick and I were talking about it also, different myths. And Carrick, did you had something
Mike?
also about myths and manhood?
Hello?
Well, I wanted to, Marty, I don't know if you
Can you
can
hear
still hear me. I heard what you said. I want to actually ask you a personal question. I want to ask you a question. So if you could define
You, Mike.
in fewer words or less what really being a man really is. You know, I think some people think it's one thing or whatever, but really it's, you know, like for me, I personally think it's, you know, like you said, handling your business, taking care of your family, things like that. But what are your definitions of a man?
Yeah, we might be having some technical difficulties. I throw that
My
out to you.
definition of a man, what I've learned over the years, I know you got to know what you're made of, and the only way you're gonna know that is to understand a relationship with God. Okay. Hello? You can hear me?
Yeah, Marty, we'll come back to you in a
Can you hear
second.
me?
Hey, Marty, we'll come back to you in 1 second, and we'll go
Can you
to
hear me? Yeah.
Eric.
I'll keep speaking. But basically, that's what I see a man as. And once I know who I'm, okay. Okay.
And same question for you, Eric. What do you think concerning manhood? That you've heard myths and different things concerning manhood.
You know, a myth that I've heard, and not only did I hear it, but I actually lived it growing up, is a man isn't supposed to cry, right? A man isn't supposed to be in touch with his feelings. And I'll share a little bit of personal experience when I was growing up. My dad, you know, I love him. We have a great relationship, but he was very tough. You know, he was very I'll use the term hard, right? He had come from a hard background with his parents, my grandparents, and he had raised my three older brothers, and I was boy number four. And by the time you raise four boys, you know, it's easy for you to kind of get that, you know, get that cover up going on, especially, you know, depending on where you come from in your background. And so, you know, the biggest myth that I've witnessed growing up is, again, a man isn't supposed to cry. You know, he's not supposed to be in touch with his you know, sensitive or feelings. You know, in truth, I don't think that I witnessed my dad actually shed a tear until I was probably 16, 17. And there was something tragic that was very tough for him, very, very difficult for him. And so that's something that I grew up believing. And I'll share this, you know, I'm a father of three boys, and then I had my daughter. Then we had our daughter. You know, I kind of carried that same ball, right? The ball was tossed to me from my father. I carried it as well, right? Tough, you know, you don't really break down. You don't really, you know, shed tears. You just kind of raise the boys to be men. And that's what you do, you know, handling your business, as Brother Marty said. And then came along this beautiful, precious little girl, right? And just really just softened my heart and made me want to do better and be in touch with my you know, my emotions and love as we are designed to love. Um, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is something else. How we we tell our boys a lot of times, stop acting like a girl. You know, you guys have ever said that or have heard people say that. And you know, Broderick and I were talking about this over the weekend. We had a meeting with Northern Virginia chapter. We were talking about that same thing of what are we saying to girls if we're saying don't act like a girl, right? Like what message are we sending to our daughters when we say things like that, because they can be just as strong. And so, Broderick, did you have anything you wanted to add about that, about myths and men and that's what?
Sure, absolutely. I definitely agree with all the brothers said. The one thing that I'll add on to just kind of amplify it in terms of myths, I feel like a lot of times as men, we think that we're never supposed to ask for help, especially if we need it or when we need it the most. I think the myth is that, it's perceived as a weakness if you need to ask for help. And naturally, we are fix-it type of beings, Mr. Fix-It. We fix things. Sometimes we try to fix things that don't even need fixing or that aren't broken. But there are a lot of times that as men, we're struggling, but too proud, too bold to ask for help when we really need help. And I think that's definitely a problem in our society. And I think we have to be humble enough when we need help to ask for it. I do think that it is good that we try to diagnose, try to troubleshoot, figure things out. But at a certain point, especially if you don't know the way, you got to ask somebody who has that wisdom, who knows the way. And I just think that that's a myth that oftentimes gets us a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to take a short break, but before we do, when we come back, I want you guys to think about this: is why is it so important for young men to not hide their emotions behind the mask, especially during this pandemic, of everything that we're going through as a country and and in the world. It's important for us to show that emotion, but let's talk about that after our break.
A Few Good Mentors is hosting their second annual virtual 5K fundraiser all October long. Participants can run or walk their 5K anytime during the month of October, and all proceeds will go to continuing the efforts in building our youth into our future leaders. Sign up today at www.afgmentoring.net or find the race online at runsignup.com, where it's listed as the second annual AFGM virtual 5K your way. Not able to run? Not a problem. You can also sponsor or donate to this awesome organization. Thank you for your continuous support. We look forward to seeing you on the virtual trails.
Okay, and now we're back. Real quick break. So before the break, we talked about the pandemic, of hiding our emotions as men. So I'm going to throw that back out there to Carrick. If you want to kick it off on why is it so important for us to not hide behind that mask, especially today?
Yes, Mike. So I think, and especially in our community, it seems to be when it comes to asking for help, especially with mental illness or seeing someone, we tend to not want to do that. We tend to want to tuck our emotions in. The pandemic, that was a very stressful time for a lot of people. A lot of people were, locked in their house. They had financial difficulties, and I feel like, you kind of need outlets to talk to let those emotions out. When you suppress them, all it does is, just bottle things up, and sometimes you react at the wrong instance when it's not necessary, and people are looking at you like crazy, like, oh, what's wrong? You just snapped on me. Yeah, because I was dealing with so much stuff and I tucked it inside. So I think, especially during tough times like these, it's necessary to talk about these things, and that's why we're here, especially. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to chime in on that, really the pandemic has changed everything in terms of how we're living, how we relate to each other, how we mentor. But one of the things we have noticed is that, and men have always had a mask up, right? Like, I mean, we've always kind of not
Yeah.
been emotional on things like that. But, Marty, if your mic is working, if you want to chime in on that, like,
Yeah.
not only,
Yeah.
not only
Yeah,
hiding
can you hear
behind
me
masks,
okay?
yeah, but what can we do
Can,
to
yeah,
help?
can you hear me okay, Mike? How's
Marty, go
that?
ahead.
Did you hear me okay, Mike? Now?
It's going in and out. We'll come back to you, Marty.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
We'll go ahead and mute Marty, and we'll go to Eric. Concerning the mask and the pandemic.
So, brother Mike, this is a great question, and brother Carrick had started to touch on the pressures when he was speaking. What I heard was pressure, and what we have to be careful of. Some things that I've learned, again, in my own story, my own walk, my own testimony. We have to be very, very careful of pressure, because that pressure has to go somewhere, right? And as brother Carrick said, you may be in the middle of a conversation, maybe some pressure or some actions may come out because they're starting to overflow, because it's just so much going on right now, right? Fathers trying to provide, trying to be the best provider that we can possibly be, and or mothers doing their best to be the best provider that they can be, and it just the load is heavy for a lot of folks these days. And so, I just want to speak on pressure and some things that we can do, not just speaking on pressure, but some things that we can do, right? Very important that we stay aligned with our purpose, right? Stay aligned with why we work so hard. Why do we provide? Why do we want to be good parents? Why do we, why did God create us, as men in the position that we're in, and women? Right. So those are some things that I encourage everyone to really, as the pressure rises, sometimes we don't even know that the pressure is rising until the action comes about, or the words come about that we can't take back. If you get outside and exercise, right, that's one way to relieve the pressure. If you like to read, if you like to write, I found therapy in writing, and I didn't read a lot. It's not that I didn't like reading. I just didn't read a lot. And I found therapy in writing. And I still take that hobby up today. So find some things that can help us work through the pressure, because at some point it's probably going to overflow. And we want to, I don't want to say control it, but we want to work through it. And I think it's very important that young people, all people, not just young people, but young people, especially nowadays, that we learn how to channel it. I didn't have anyone that could kind of show me the way. I had to figure out a lot of it, on my own when I was struggling the greatest, as an adult, as a man, trying to figure out how I will continue to provide and how I could be good at providing. And, again, by the Lord's grace, he worked with me, he walked with me. And, pressure it's very dangerous, and we have to learn how to channel it in a positive way.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric, and I appreciate that. Like, the pressure that young people are in, it's a little bit different compared to where we were in our generation, or just a few years ago. But that is something that a lot of people are feeling, especially now, especially young people, and letting that emotion out is important. And in the coming weeks, especially October, November, we're going to be talking to some folks that will help us in that mental health capacity. But I just want to switch gears for a second, and this can go out to Ricky. Think about a historical figure or living person in your life that you look up to or have looked up to and try to emulate. What are or were some of the things about their character that you were drawn to? Could be a historical figure, could be or a living person. And I'm gonna go around the panel, and if we could just chime in on that.
So I had two. My father first and foremost. We've already hit on it a little bit. In the beginning, growing up, he had a tough shell, right? He hardly showed any emotions, and it was hard for him to express. I mean, what he was feeling. But that's how he was raised, right? Um, and as I continued to get older, our relationship evolved from not just father son, but as I got older, started dating, engaged, and throughout till I got married and had kids, it became more. It was a friendship because the things that I was going through, he had already went through, and his resiliency over my lifetime. It was just he never he always found a teaching moment in everything that he was going through for me. And that was really big. Like he would sit down with me, hey, I tried this and this is the results. Yeah. So if you ever come across it, I don't try this type deal. And I always appreciated that because he always found time for a teaching moment, even in some of his darkest days. Um, and that was the first person to this day I still find myself doing things and emulating things that he used to do, the good things. And he would tell me some things. Hey, when you become the man of your house, hey, you do something different than what I did here,
Right.
and I respected that. And then my second one is Kobe Bryant. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just from a competitive standpoint and just how he carried himself and how he went about his business. So even though I never met him, it just always felt like I just knew who he was. It was just from like being drawn to him from when he came in the league in '96 all the way up to the tragedy. But it was just like you watched him how he went about his business every day, and it was like, man, regardless of what I wanted to do, or whether it was school or basketball, or even when I joined the Navy, I kind of carried that Mamba mentality. It's just something that stuck with me. So those two, I would probably be the two that I emulate the most.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if anybody has anything to follow up to that, but those are two good people. You know, somebody close to you like your father, and Kobe was amazing. But we'll go around to how about Carrick? You know, if you could think of a historical or living person that you look up to and try to emulate, what characteristics drew you to that person?
So historical, I have, growing up and even now, I've always had issues with telling people off of my temper, and I realized, it wasn't doing me any good. It was setting me back. So I like the reverence, they call it like reverent power. So like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, for them to just take so much,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, for them to just take so much and still, you know, pray or for the people that oppress them, that takes a lot. I'm hoping that one day I can get to that point, but that's what I'm striving towards. When somebody says something about you, you don't always need to react and have a response. Just take the high road and be the bigger person and fight for the good of humanity. So that's the direction I'm trying to do. The old Carrick would retaliate and fight, 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 fight. And yeah, it's good, to fight and stand up for what you believe in. But sometimes it's also good to pull it back. So I'm working on more of the reverence, and I think it's worked wonders. It's actually made my life better. I'm not as stressed. My health is better. And people find me a lot more approachable. So that's the direction that I'm leaning towards. So those leaders in the past, who display reverence.
Right, right. Yeah, Martin Luther King would have been mine as well, Carrick. I mean, to go through that, I don't think we can even imagine what a lot of the civil rights leaders went through during that time, and still to not be violent because we know violence doesn't always solve the issue. But Broderick, what are your thoughts on that as far as historical figure?
Sure. Colin Powell was one of my historical figures, having been an African American leader, one of the few 4-stars that we've had today. In terms of personal leaders, I'd also have to say my father as well.
Yeah.
My father really taught me the definition of hard work. All the way from a little boy, whatever he was doing, I was with him. He made me watch. We grew up in poverty, so I could recall being in the house and then all of a sudden all the power goes out because, we were unable to pay. However, my father still got out there and he worked and he made sure that every day, there's never been a day in my life, that we went a day without a meal or without being fed. And he would give his last dollar to help take care of the family. I watched how he treated my mother, which was an example for me to learn how to treat my one-day wife, how to treat my daughters. So Papa's really my ride or die. I didn't like a lot of time the discipline because I did grow up in a time where you got the belt when you got out of line. But that correction, now that I'm an adult, I firmly believe that correction helped save my life. And then the last, unsung hero that I put, on blast in my life, all my Sunday school teachers. I was able to, wasn't really listening then, or at least it wasn't sinking in. But as I got older, the word says, thine word have you hidden in my heart that you might not sin against me. And I believe that as I became older, I was able to fall back on a lot of those scriptures to help me get through, through life. So those are my mentors and unsung heroes.
Yeah, that's great. And, you can really tell a difference if who you have in your household growing up to help you develop is really important, can help pave the way. Doesn't always have to be a relative, could be somebody else in the neighborhood that is adding something positive into your life. But having a father, and we're gonna dive into fatherhood in the next couple of weeks too, because that's a topic that we really need to talk about. No sugarcoating anything. We're gonna really talk about that. But Eric, who did you have as far as historical figure?
I've got a few. First, I got to give credit to my dad, right? Again, as I shared a little bit, about his background. One thing, one of the many things that my dad told me was to work and to provide. So no matter what was going on, again, lights out, struggling with food in the fridge. My dad went to work every day, so I got to give him credit for teaching me. And I don't even know that he knew or had a focus on discipline, but he definitely helped me see the discipline. And then I have to combine two. Two for me will be Dr. Miles Monroe and T.D. Jakes. Now, let me explain to you why. I love God's word. Like, I love God's word, right? And what I love about them both is the wisdom that they bring, right? In a conversation, they can tie it into the Bible. They can tie it into verses. They can tie it into stories, right? And it's just like, when I'm listening to them, it's like we're having a conversation, and that speaks volumes to me. It actually helps me learn, and they are teachers of mine. So I have to combine those two for the wisdom that they bring. I would rest in peace, Dr. Miles Monroe. I would love to just have a conversation with them. Sit down and have some coffee or whatever that looks like, and just soak up the wisdom. T.D. Jakes, the same. I would just love to have a conversation with him. Their wisdom is, amazing for me. Amazing.
That's really powerful right there. I'm a big fan of Miles Monroe as well. And Marty, we haven't forgotten about you, but I know we're having some technical difficulties with your audio. So, but we're getting close to our time limit, but I really want us as we start to end our first episode, I want you guys to look into the camera and really think about this question. If you could speak to a young male that may be listening to this podcast, and maybe they're unsure of what direction they want to go in life, what advice would you give? And when we do that, think about yourself, think about things that you've gone through, but what advice would you? And I would say for me that if I could talk to a younger person, would be to really respect and honor your parents. Take that time, get to know, really listen to your parents. And that's one of the things that you sometimes as a young person, you don't do, but take some time and really get to know them and really listen to what they're trying to impart into your life. But we'll go around. We'll start with Ricky, and maybe there's a young man listening to this, just happen to turn it on. Could be in their early 20s, could be younger than that. What advice would you give them that would help them in their direction in their life?
For one, I would start with what you said about your parents, honoring your parents. Man, I lost both my parents before I turned 30, and now I'm going through life as a man with a wife and 2 kids. And sometimes I accomplish some things, or my kids do some stuff, and my mom never got to meet them in person. So always, always, always respect your parents. And then 2, hey, trouble is easy to get into, hard to get out of. So from that perspective, everything you do in life, it's the Newton's law of physics, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So just be aware of your surroundings, and take care of yourself, and don't never be afraid to reach out, ask questions. If you don't know something, that's okay. It's okay not to know something, and hopefully you come meet with one of our mentors, and we can help you figure it out. We don't have all the answers, but between the collective, we can find that answer for you, or help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I like that. Carrick, what are your thoughts on that?
No, that's good. Ricky was talking about the law of physics and everything. And, I honestly believe that everything, what you do matters the most. How you treat people, that goes a long way. The things, it's not just all about you. It took me a long time to realize, it's not just about me. Carrick for a long time was very, very independent, and Carrick was shutting a lot of people out. And I realized that a lot of these people that I was pushing away were actually very beneficial to my life journey. So, I started including them more, and I started helping them. And in turn, I noticed when I helped them, they turned around and helped me, and they elevated me to a higher level. So I just to really just touch on that, if you treat people right and give back or whatever to me, and everything just works itself out. That's just how I do. I wish that I would have been a lot more open to a lot of people in my past, and maybe they would have helped me get to the point I needed to be at. There are a lot of people that are not even living that I knew tried to get close to me, but I kind of pushed them away or whatever. I had a wall up. So the older I would say to anybody, just let your guard down. Not everybody's out to get you, and there is someone out there that you can really trust and turn to in times of need. So
Yeah, that's huge right there. Keeping that wall down, let people in every once in a while, and it's so important. Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I would, whoever's listening, young men, old men, older men, my message to you is that God has a purpose for your life. right? God has a purpose for your life. And I would encourage you to get in touch with your feelings, get in touch with your passion, get in touch with your thoughts, spend some time with you and God to be able to channel that energy, right? And as we get in touch with him and we start to have a conversation and we build our relationship, we'll start to work on our gifts. And as we start to work on our gifts that the good Lord chose for each and every one of us, right, that'll lead us to our purpose. And so for me, it was a life changer, still is a life changer every day, right? To know that God has a purpose for waking me up every day. And my goal is to be on purpose. My goal is to be in purpose, right? And find the good in every situation. And sometimes, you know what, you'll have to be the good in order to change the outcome. And then lastly, not necessarily in the order, but lastly, I would encourage you to try some things, right? To know that it's okay to fail. You know, as we fail, we learn, right? And some would say the more no's we get, the closer we get to a yes. That's not always easy to receive, but it's true in a lot of ways and a lot of times. So, you know, again, just get in touch with your thoughts, learn how to channel that energy, and know that no matter where you are in this moment, in this season, God has a plan and has a purpose for you being here. And once you find that purpose, your life will never be the same.
Yeah, that's good right there. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Brother Broderick, if you could look in that camera and talk to a younger person, what would you say?
Yeah, I've got a set of questions that I would ask myself starting off, and that's what do I want, and then after I have the answer to that question, what do I need to get to what I want, and then if at the end of those questions I don't have an answer to either one of them because you know what, I don't want anything, then the next thing that I would do is I would ask for help. I would look to an organization. I would look to a few good mentors so that you can have and surround yourself with a network of individuals, with men who know the way, who share wisdom that can help you. Because I can assure you that all of us, we've had somebody that have helped us along the way, and you don't have to be alone. But that would be the first thing, is I would begin to know who I am. That way I can begin to do you. I can do me. But that first step comes with identifying who you are and understanding your value. If your value is down here, then what are the things that I need to do to build my value, my esteem to where it needs to be? And then from there, it's taking the first step. Because if we never move, if we never take those steps, then we'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, that is great. Really great stuff, you guys. And as we close out, just want to thank our guests, all of you all, for taking the time out this evening and being on our very first episode of a few good mentor sponsored podcast called the MaleBox. And the MaleBox, we're going to be here. We're going to deliver inspiration and empower as much as we can. We're not perfect. And that's one thing we want to get across, is that, and you don't have to be. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to be willing to try in life, work hard, tap into your, you need that power, of that spiritual power in your life. You got to be grounded in your faith. And so that's what our organization is all about. But in addition to that, we're about reaching back out to our community and just helping each other as well. So cannot thank you guys enough for just taking some time out to do this. And we're going to come back in a couple of weeks and talk about really diving deep in October and November into mental health in general. Got a couple of guests that we're thinking about bringing on in October. And so definitely everybody stay tuned to that. If you have any questions or concerns, or you want to, you have any ideas for us, feel free to email us, and we're going to post that email box up once again. And it's the MaleBox at afgm.com. mentoring, afgmentoring.org, the mailbox at afgmentoring.org. Send us an email. Let us know how we're doing. I know it's our very first one. So, you know, we're only going to get better from here on out, and we're going to keep working at it. We're not going anywhere as far as mentoring. Our number one rule is showing up, and we're going to show up as mentors, and we're going to show up for you all on this podcast. Thank you all once again, and stay tuned for our next episode.
A Few Good Mentors is hosting their second annual virtual 5K fundraiser all October long. Participants can run or walk their 5K anytime during the month of October, and all proceeds will go to continuing the efforts in building our youth into our future leaders. Sign up today at www.afgmentoring.net or find the race online at runsignup.com, where it's listed as the second annual AFGM virtual 5K your way. Not able to run? Not a problem. You can also sponsor or donate to this awesome organization. Thank you for your continuous support. We look forward to seeing you on the virtual trails.